I'm Emily Hansen. I'm the assistant principal at Taylor Ranch.
Good morning, I'm Erin Del Castillo. I am the principal at Venice Elementary.
Sarah Canals, the assistant principal at Tatum Ridge.
Barry Dunn, the principal at Tatum Ridge Elementary.
Patty Felino, the assistant principal at Brentwood Elementary.
Stephen Covert, principal at Pineview.
Melanie Ritter, assistant principal, Venice High School.
Sergeant Carrillo, Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, also emergency response team.
Lieutenant Chappell, Sarasota County Fire Department.
All right, Barry, do you want to tell us the story of what
Sure.
happened here at Tatum Ridge?
All right, sure. All of the team you see here is admin team that was assigned to work the special needs hurricane shelter here at Tatum Ridge. We opened Saturday morning at 8 o'clock, and the minute we opened the doors, we had buses pulling up. We had lots of people being dropped off, some with caregivers, some with not. I even think well into the night, I heard that 1 a.m. our last bus pulled up at some point. So we were basically packing this place as the day went on, prepping for the storm. It's still Saturday, so we still, sort of had a day to get everybody staged and ready. Rooms were filling up quickly. We're trying to house, ourselves and our families, and getting folks, plugged into oxygen where they needed to be and into the building. And Sunday when the storm hit, everybody was settled. They had a spot. I think we had close to 900 people here. That includes our first responders. That includes our families. That includes therapy dogs and other dogs. And everybody was sleeping in stairwells and closets on the stage. We were making places for everybody to shelter. And about 4 o'clock, the power went off and our generator kicked in. About 8 o'clock, our generator blew. And so we sort of went into a little bit of panic mode. That was probably the height of the storm. I think the winds were, somebody said, somewhere around 60 or something like that. And so Kurt Weaver, who was our facilities gentleman that really should be right in the front right here, he needs to take a lot of the credit. Him and another gentleman, Dale, from facilities, and then we had 2 volunteers, Chris Canals, Sarah's husband, where's Sarah, and Pete Petrovich, who is also a spouse of a school board employee. The 4 of them put on raincoats. They ran out to the generator. They resuscitated the generator, ran back in. We thought we were good. Everything's fine for a little while. About an hour later, the generator blew again. So they went out there again to try to problem solve what's going on. Through all of this, what they realized were the louvers on the generator were being sucked in by the wind from the hurricane and blocking off the fans, and so the generator wasn't able to cool properly, so it was overheating and going out. So they decided we're going to go out there, we're going to take the panel off, and we're going to just remove the louvers altogether. So that was done. They let it cool off for a little bit. They got it back up and running. Well, now the elements are pounding the generator. So also through the course of this, there are 4 belts on the generator. 3 of them blew pretty quickly. I would say within the first hour of us problem solving that, we were down to 1 belt, and Kurt looked at me and said, this belt won't last all night. There's no way that by any sort of miracle that this even could keep going. It did inconsistently. That's a whole nother story. But at that point, I think we realized we need to come up with a plan without power to get people with oxygen hooked up. Somebody approached Sarah and said, I have a generator. And somebody else, I think it was Sergeant Carrillo, you guys had a generator, right?
County ops.
And then the county, the gentlemen that were working here for the county, all these guys were staging here. Once the winds got too high, they had to come stage, park their trucks out back, and then when post-storm, they go out and clear things out. So we had guys here ready to trim trees. We had the EMTs. All the first responders were here in that capacity. And when this all went down, a couple of them came up with generators, and the county guys said to me, well, your lights out back on the soccer field have generators built in. Are you okay if I just go grab those? I said, absolutely. And so these guys attached it to their tractor, and they blew through our fence. If anybody asks, Hurricane Irma hit our fence. And
just in that one spot.
Just in that one spot. And basically dug a trench out there coming. And I mean, these guys came back. They were soaking wet from head to toes. You could have wrung their shoes out. So we had 4 generators set up out front, personal generators. We've got health department people bringing us towels so we can wrap the extension cords. We get them in here. At this time, we're out of power, so we're trying to get it hooked up. Patty Felino came up with the idea, you can't see anything. Wherever there's a power source, put a flashlight down. So I come in, and there's flashlights all over the place, and we're telling people, go to a flashlight, go to a flashlight. And that's when we got everybody hooked up to those power sources. The generators are going, we're getting everybody hooked up. You hear beeps all over the room. Every time there was a beep, we're tripping a cord. So we've got to go from maybe 5 machines on to 4 machines per plug-in. And so we get everybody stabilized in here. At that point, the power is coming on and off, but we weren't counting on it. And I want you to know, as we're bringing people down here, the first responders, because obviously we have no elevator with no power, we're carrying people down the stairs. I mean, they're in the stairwell. You've got, medically fragile patients being carried by first responders, just getting them down here in this sort of effort
With all
of
their belongings.
with all their belongings and their
Pots.
caregivers and everything else. And
Yep.
the calm is kind of what was freaky about it, because
Yes.
nobody was freaking out. Nobody was upset. Everybody was going with the flow. For some reason, they trusted all of us. I think we had been taking really good care of them and building relationships for a couple of days, and so they trusted us. But we got them all down here. We got everybody up and running. We made it through the night. At that point, the power coming on gave us a little bit of AC comfort for about 10 minutes, but that's all it was doing. And we made it through the night, and the generator, I don't know if that fan belt's still alive, but my understanding it was on a thread, and somehow, some way, it lasted all through the night. Is that the story?
That's the story.
Yeah, that's the story.
And I'm sticking to it.
So what would have happened if you lost the power?
Only the individuals on oxygen in this room only the individuals in this room that their oxygen tanks were being powered by the generators, 4 of them out front. Those were the only individuals whose oxygen tanks would have been powered.
We did have some big tanks, though, in the media center that didn't need power.
So what would have happened to them if they didn't have the oxygen?
Well, as Rescue 10 and Engine 32 and 34 said, you need oxygen to live, and so it was brainstorming, problem solving, whatever needed to happen to make sure those folks got the oxygen. That's what we did.
Just so you realize, we can only fit 50 people here because we were overloading and we only had so many extension cords, and we actually had a roof leak back there, so those extension cords we couldn't even connect. So on top of that, when the generator kicked back on, we had about 25 people on battery-operated oxygen tanks. So that gave it enough charge that it kept lasting us through the night. So it really was an effort that getting that generator to keep popping on. We had the gas powered, making sure these people were okay, but that generator popping on, the fact that Kurt went out there, a dozen times in the middle of the hurricane, just to make sure that it would keep kicking on, just to give those battery oxygenated packs a little bit more life is what lasted us through the night.
I think the nurse said we had 101 patients here, residents here on oxygen, and we got 50 of them that were on the
Down here.
the
Compressed
compressed
air.
air.
We learned a little bit through this
Yeah.
medical stuff.
How many oxygen
Yeah.
concentrators you can fit on one
And then
circuit?
and then it kept tripping because you can adjust them. So, but there were some fragile patients here that even when the cords were tripping and they weren't getting their oxygen, you were panicked for their safety and for their health.
And that was our concern when we were trying to bring people down. We wanted to make sure that we didn't overload the backup generators that we had running. So we were only connecting, at first I think we brought down like 15 or 20, and we put them on and kind of waited a little bit to make sure that it wasn't going to trip the generator that we had. And then as we knew that we could hold that power, we would start bringing more people down.
First responders, Sergeant Carrillo, Lieutenant Earhart, folks on staff, but their folks and their quick thinking in problem solving, getting generators over here and connected, patients downstairs, set up in here. It was a group effort, but these guys, folks from Sarasota County Public Works, those individuals, their contribution can't be overstated in having a good
Above and
outcome.
beyond.
And I just want to say, because my fear is that we're leaving someone out. There were people coming out of the woodwork just saying, what can I do to help? People had family members, and I had teachers here, their spouses were coming down, family members coming down. We had teenagers that were running around, anything from, serving meals to folks to just, what do you need from me? What do you need from me? So there are a lot of unsung heroes in this. I mean, we were sort of in charge of what was going on, but there is no way any of this would have happened without
everyone's help.
just an effort of a team of a community of people coming together to save lives.
And there was never a moment of, we can't do this. It was always, we are doing
Plan
this.
B,
We got
Plan
this.
C, Plan D.
Never,
Just
ever
figure
plan
out
B. Just
how.
figure it
What we're
out.
gonna do.
We just did
I
it.
think we were on double Z,
Exactly.
But we
cubed. I'm not sure.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
From a public safety standpoint, the principal made an interesting comment. He said that despite everything, there was calm in the
chaos. Talk to me about the value from a public safety standpoint of people remaining calm and your first responders and your ERT guys. And Lieutenant, same question is for you. Talk to me about being in that moment and keeping things calm and what that did for the community members and the PSN folks that were in here.
Absolutely. It's what we do. We help people. That's our job. One of the kind of memories that I have is when we came up with that plan, we were right by the door, and I remember looking at a couple guys, because this is about 11 o'clock, and people had been working all day, so a lot of them were in bed sleeping, some like the law enforcement. All of a sudden, I looked at 2 or 3, and I said, hey, where's everybody at? And they're like, I think they're in bed. I said, get everybody up, and I told them we're going to stage on the stairwells. As soon as the nurse tells us who needs to be brought downstairs, we're going to go and transport them and bring them down. Also with fire and rescue and all the other civilians and school personnel that were assisting, we're all helping each other. And within like 5 seconds, there was like 30 people in front of me. And they all just got up and, went to the stairwell and did what they needed to do. And we brought them down, hooked them up, and kind of helped each other out,
And then, Lieutenant, question for you too, the value of these engines that pulled up and had these generators. Talk to us a little bit from a fire perspective, the value of that.
It just was something as another tool in the toolbox, and another tool in the toolbox, and the importance is, like you had said, of people remaining calm and thinking of all the things they have at their disposal and problem solving. I know they were able to take up our engines and use the generators on board to help as a piece of the puzzle with what Public Works was doing, with what individual personnel and bystanders were doing to help them. And it sounds like they did the best that they were able to, and come up with solutions in the situation, both law enforcement, fire, and working with everyone else in the community as they were trying to put it together.
And throughout this entire, I think at one point I calculated about 96 straight hours of time here through this. We were in contact with Sarasota County Emergency Operations Communication Center, keeping them informed. We were brainstorming over the radio. What's our status? What could we do next? Where are generators that we could use? Lots of information that as school personnel, we have no idea that there are great generators on the backs of fire engines, but they brainstormed, and so folks from the EOCC, Sarasota County Emergency Management, and district personnel, they were incredible.
And as soon as the winds died down and Sergeant Carrillo was able to start kind of going out, we got another fire truck as a backup. And then we had another fire truck that brought us 17 individual oxygen tanks to try to get us through.
That was at
and
3 in the morning.
That was 3 in the morning, and then I got 11 more.
Small cylinders.
But they were used, because when we were taking people out and we're checking people out, they were using their backup ones.
We got 27 tanks in the 3 hours that the winds had died down.
I'll mention something about whoever asked about the calm of the evening. One of my favorite moments is there was an evacuee here. I would say he was in his 80s. He jumped up onto our stage and jumped on the piano and started playing the piano, and there was a sing-along happening in the middle of all this.
Did our dance.
And so we should have done our dance. Right. I told somebody it reminded me of that scene in the Titanic where the ship's going down and the band's still playing. And this guy's up there and he's playing "You Are My Sunshine." And so that was one of the things that I feel like just kept it calm. It was a community of people taking care of each other.
And I think we can't forget to mention our food and nutrition services.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Behind the scenes, constantly
What were there?
preparing
Just
food, getting food, and there were 4 of them.
800 residents here, call them residents, plus all of us
Yep,
to
plus all the
feed.
staff.
So we were all chipping in, and wow, yeah.
They never
A
skipped
lot
a
of
meal,
food,
never skipped a
yeah.
beat. Yep.
And who actually went out into the storm with all this here?
Kurt Weaver, who is from facilities, Dale, and I am sorry, Dale, I don't know Dale's last name, but he's also from facilities. And then the other 2 were volunteers. Sarah's husband, Chris, he's an electrician, had some knowledge of generators. My favorite story of the whole storm was that they were out there at the generator, which is about 50 yards behind the school, and they needed a tool. And he said, "Oh, I've got it in my truck." So he jets across. They nicknamed him Frogman because he scaled an 8-foot fence and ran out. And I remember looking out front and I see Chris Knaus running in the parking lot. I'm like, why is he out there in the parking lot to go get a wrench so that he could come back there and help continue to problem solve? But
all the public works and all the county guys. I was out there. Another member, Gabe Eckert, and everybody was pretty much out there at one point or another.
Right.
What was it like? I mean,
It was
They came back
a
dripping
hurricane.
wet.
It was about 70, 80 mile an hour,
intense.
cold, horizontal wind coming at you, and it was intense.
And you
It
see them
was-
out there in their yellow raincoats, and I remember standing at the door,
The county
and they all
works
went in
guys
at
didn't
one
even
point, and
have
I didn't see them
raincoats.
for like 10 minutes, and I'm like, okay, do we need to run out there to make sure they're okay? And then I see a yellow raincoat pop back. I'm like, okay, everybody's moving still. But the fourth person that I didn't say was Pete Petrovich.
Correct. He's a
who-
corrections
and-
officer.
and- Right, and his wife is a school board employee, and again, just jumped in and said, I'm here to help, let's do it.
Well,
Let's-
explain, you're out in the storm, and you're at a point where the fire department can't even drive on the road, and the sheriff's department's not driving around, but yet you're still doing that.
Correct. Well, what other recourse did we have? I mean,
You do what you
we
have to do in a
do what
storm.
we have to do. We knew that there was a power supply out there. We knew that there was generators out there. It's about 200, 300 yards. I think we're going to try our luck and make sure that we can get that. The other alternative is people need air to breathe. So we'll do what we need to do.
I remember probably,
Did it scare you? I mean, were you worried?
There was no
just
time to
kinda- there's
stop.
no
even
time.
I mean,
You just-
honestly,
yeah,
when they
you
went
just
out for
do,
the
yeah.
generator, we took everyone's names down
Yeah.
just
Yep.
to have that. But one of the county guys said when they went to go get the other generator, I said, what was it like out there? He goes, imagine riding on a motorcycle without a helmet in the rain. And that's what it feels like
He
out
said he
there.
jumped in when he went to get the generators and the water came up to his
Yeah.
chest. And then the funny part was, and obviously Mr. Dunn has indicated that we didn't have the key, or the key was taking too long to get there. So he made his own way. And I remember he came back and he told me, he's like, hey, Sarge, kind of ran through the fence. And I said, that's fine. I turned to Mr. Culver and I said, hey, Irma hit right there with the fence. And he was like, no problem. So,
no problem, we can take care of
yeah,
that.
we can take care of that.
And then you'll see when you walk in or walk out, there's still duct tape covering all the doorways because the storm was still happening. So as we're getting all the cords feeded in, we still had to secure the doorways from all of the wind.
The elements
And
and the
that was another story, because
Yeah.
once we it's funny, we took a picture and we thought we were done. And then all of a sudden, someone from Health and Safety
Yep.
came and
Yep.
said, we might have a problem. And we're like, okay, what's next?
next?
Because we've had problems all night. So he indicated we might have a carbon monoxide issue. So then we had to make sure that we could seal all the doors, and that's where Pete Petrovich just went ahead and just between like a couple people, they sealed everything up. He's like, you can't get water in there. It's perfect, you know. So we were able to
And
resolve
somehow
plan.
they sealed it from the
Yeah.
inside at the very end.
Correct,
It
yeah.
worked.
Really thick
We couldn't
red
get
tape.
out.
It
Because
was
we would resolve
sealed.
one issue and then another issue would come up.
Yeah.
I feel like you all are going to spend the holidays together.
We've had a
Absolutely.
texting thread going all
Absolutely.
week, and
Yes.
we all decided they're going to make a movie, and we've all chosen who's going to play us.
Still processing it.
Jerry chose the rocks.
Yeah, that's right.
If you could just all sum up, like, with one sentence of what you are going to be left with, a feeling that you're going to be left with from this experience. Could you all just kind of take a turn one at a time? And
I'm going to cry. I can't do it. I don't know if I can do
I would
it.
say pride. I'm really proud of what we did.
I say honor and teamwork. Honor and teamwork.
Teamwork and collaboration.
Yeah.
I'm going to say,
These guys are amazing.
I'm going to say humility, just because to be able to serve like that. Sorry.
I would say community, just being able, like, I think we're all in the service
Correct.
industry and we all have the same goal. And I think of Melanie, who wasn't supposed to be here that night, ended up just volunteering. Every single person that was here, and I just get chills thinking about it, we all used whatever skill set we had to help. And it didn't matter if we were on the clock, it didn't matter if that was our skill set. I mean, every single one of us just, and we're all gonna get flashbacks.
Exactly. That happened all the time. All the time.
To me, it's community.
I say relationships. We're in this business because we develop relationships with our families, with our students, with our community, and we did that as a team. We did it with the people that were here. I don't know what to call them. Are they neighbors? Are they residents?
Residents,
Patients?
Yeah.
But we built relationships with them, and that made them believe in us, and that helped us make this possible.
And we had a good vibe.
Yeah,
It just was
really
like,
good
we
vibe.
stayed calm. We were all we joke around even under pressure. And I think it created that whole vibe. I mean, we had 2 levels of people filled in hallways and classrooms. And even when we had to check off their names on the list to get food, I mean, we had to account for every person here every time they ate. And we just joked about it and made it fun throughout the whole process and stayed calm, and it just created this good vibe all around.
I mean, one time I was serving oatmeal, the next time I'm carrying somebody down the stairs.